Welcome to the Business Academy podcast, from technician to CEO in practice, where our goal is to take you from overwhelm to freedom. My name is Ethan Dainberg, and I'm your host today, and I'll be your host here on every episode of our podcast. We're going to be sharing hacks, strategies, and principles to take you from good to great and from overwhelm to freedom. Whether you're a chiropractor, medical doctor, dentist, veterinarian, no matter the profession, healthcare, our goal is to take you to where you want to be. I'm here today with Dr. Rademacher, our guest, and Dr. Rademacher, we want to share a little bit about yourself and what you've been able to do in practice over the years. And you've done a lot of big things in practice, not only with revenue and patient volume and business growth, but also from organization structure. And you almost have, in many cases, the ultimate freedom when it comes to running your business. You're never really even working on it; you're working in it. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what we're going to talk about today.
Sure. So I've been out since school since 1995. And over those first few years, I'm an associate, struggling, got into my own business. And one of the outpoints that I was running into, and the problems I was running into, was I really wasn't able to convert patients coming in to actually start care. They needed care, but I couldn't deliver the message to where they were actually deciding to sign on that dotted line, like let's do this. And so that's when I actually got with the Business Academy. This goes back 12 years ago or so. It's been a long time. And they helped me actually develop a report of findings where my conversions went from like 35% all the way up to like 75, 80%. And while I was with the Business Academy, I started looking and saying, gosh, they teach so much more than just a report of findings. I realized like, oh my gosh, they can actually show me how to run a business. And then the wheels started turning, like all the different things that I could do. And fast forward to today, like I've medically integrated, I got staff that run my office. As you said, I'm not in my office. I have really the true definition of freedom for me is like being able to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it, right? Yeah. And so the Business Academy has helped me actually achieve that through putting their systems in, but also training my staff and for them to run the office.
That's huge. So a lot of the people listening right now are in a position to where they may not be at where they want to be. They're stuck in there, they're overwhelmed. They can be a provider from, a lot of different fields. When you have to go from good to great, the goal here is to take them from overwhelmed to freedom. And by doing that, we have to help our people to go take the industry from where it is to where it could be. And a lot of that is in regards to taking those initial steps in the beginning. The stories are crazy, right? We'll help with that, right? So you weren't always where you're at right now. So when it came to your personal growth and the struggles and what it really took to actually put you in this position, tell me about some of your early days back when you weren't integrated medically, you weren't driving in hundreds of patients a week and doing millions in revenue and having the success you're having. Take me back to Dr. Rademacher, Gary, just out of school, opening up practice, and what were those initial struggles like and some of the things you had to do to really move through that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, getting out of school, like I felt like where I went to school, I went to Parker University, and I felt like I was a really good technician. Like I really knew how to take care of a patient, but there was this overwhelming fear of getting into business. Because for chiropractors, it's not like you can go into a hospital setting. You don't, where you get groomed. You really got to start your own practice, or you have to work for someone. So I went to work for someone, and was not making a lot of money, and I worked there for about a year, and realized like if I'm ever gonna, do anything here, I'm gonna have to start going into business. But I actually had a ton of fear, and so I went into business with someone else. I had a partner. So
partnerships are crazy sometimes. They can go really well, and there's probably people listening right now that have a really terrible partnership relationship or a really good one. And so it can be your greatest asset, your greatest enemy. I mean, where did this one go?
At first it was great and really good guy. That never changed. It's just that we had a different dream, and so we weren't on the same page. And so we were together for about 10 years. And, towards the end, I just had a different vision than he did. And so, I ended up, borrowing money to buy him out and do my own thing, which, I thank him. I haven't spoken to him for many, many years, but I'm very thankful for that learning lesson. It was a lesson of learning, because there are great partnerships. This is just one where, if you're not lined up, you're going to hit a ceiling.
Yeah.
Your growth is going to be stunted.
But it's so funny how it's either in relationships and it's in businesses. Sometimes people run into the issue of procrastination of like, I know I'm in a terrible position right now, or a position that's not in alignment for where I want to go. Yeah. But they don't know how to move forward and take action on something that could be potentially, terrible for their life, or they're not good for their business, or moving them in the wrong direction and not making a change. And one of the biggest fears people have in life is change. Yep. And one of my things I always try to embrace in myself when I have fear is going, okay, good, well, if I have to make a change, how do I embrace that head on and run towards fear versus trying to withdraw back, away from it. But from your experience, what was that conversation like when you had to confront taking action on something that so many of us, procrastinate on so much, having to make a decision to break up a partnership that may not be, or maybe it could be a partnership with a team member, a friend, a close colleague. It could be that breakup with maybe a relationship in your life, but in this case, it was your business partner. What could we glean from that today?
Sure. So I think that for me, it was my wife really pushed me, was like, you need to get out of this. Yeah. It's not good. She saw how unhappy I was. And she wasn't happy because I wasn't happy, And also, I think where many providers today go wrong is they don't have a coach. They try to get out there and do it on their own. And I go back to many of the greats have said this, if you want to do anything big, you can't do it by yourself. Any goal that's huge, you're going to have to step on some shoulders and have some people push you up. There's always a plethora of people that are going to help you get where you want to go. And that's where getting the right coach really, made me explode, because I've had so many different coaches, but I've never had a coach this long with the Business Academy where I've stuck the same place year after year, because it was the only consulting company that actually taught me how to run a business, which is where true freedom exists, is when you learn how to do something and you can replicate it and you can teach it. That doesn't exist out there.
It's well, for the healthcare industry, it's sorely missing. I think anybody listening to this knows that the ability to take a practice and give the tools and strategies and even the things of here's how you have a conversation with a partner that it's not working out. Here's what you say, here's what you do, here's how you have a conversation with a team member where it's just not working out. Mm-hmm. And here's what you say, do, and have your ducks in a row to make that decision to move confidently. Listen, there's not enough people in the industry teaching business, right?
There's very few. And that's where, if you look at healthcare today, it's the reason why your small clinics are dying on the vine, basically, because they don't have the tools to market their business, to know how to expand their business. They don't know how to hire. They don't know how to train. There's so much of a not know there that they're going under. Whereas the offices, for instance, that are trained up in that and they know that, they're flourishing right now. It's never been a better time to be a chiropractor, frankly, because there's so much opportunity.
It's crazy, and plus, right now we live in an economic climate that is just it's there for the picking. I mean, any business can grow, and then. I like to always, it's funny when I talk to certain colleagues in the industry sometimes where they say things like, I don't like to sell, I don't like to be pushing my marketing, I don't like to do all these things. I go, listen, man, you're running a business. Any business you're running has to have a marketing initiative it's being aggressively executed on. And it has to have a sales funnel that can move a patient through a conversion process or a customer to your product. A practice is no different. I mean, I think you've learned that since the beginning. It's if you don't run it like a business and you run it like a hobby, it's going to give you what a hobby will give you, not what a business could give you.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's it's a game. It's a fun game, but you've got to learn, right? That, like you mentioned, people say that I don't like sales. That's to me, that's someone who's not purpose driven. What's their purpose? Why did you get into practice to begin with? You gotta tap into that why of why you went to chiropractic school or medical school to begin with. It was to help and serve people. Well, if you're not going to get out there and preach to the crowds about what you do, how are you ever going to actually massively grow it? And the thing is your staff are going to feed off of your enthusiasm, and they're going to feed off of your purpose, which is going to help you grow to a massive level. And right now, people, I think, come out of school and they run into some stumbling blocks. They don't have the tools, and so they get jaded, and so they lose that spirit. Right. And so when you actually are able to teach someone how to run a business, know how to market, how to convert, it becomes fun again.
Yeah.
And so, and actually, we always talk about being a founder, or a dreamer. Right. You can start dreaming again. Like when you initially went to school, you had this dream, of helping people, and people lose that spirit over time because they get beat up because they don't know what they don't know. Right. And so it comes down to finding the right coaching.
Well, that's a good point. You don't know what you don't know, right? And you have a really cool. I remember talking about this one time where you had this really cool scale where you come out of school and you know what you don't know, then you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, then you know that you. Here's what it is: you don't know when you get into something. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Then you know that you don't know. Yeah. And then you become consciously aware of that you. No, then you become unaware that you know. Yeah. And then you become unaware that you know, to where it just comes natural.
Exactly.
Right?
And
I think I said it right, something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head, but it can make a little more sense from the standpoint of when you first get into anything, or before you do get into anything, you're unconsciously incompetent.
That's what it is. Yeah.
You're unconsciously incompetent on something, and then all of a sudden someone gives you an idea, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, it's my reality. Yeah. Now I'm consciously incompetent, right? Now I know something, but I know I don't know it. I'm incompetent in it. And then what happens is through training, now all of a sudden you become consciously competent, meaning that you have to think your way through doing it, but you can do it.
Yeah. And you know what you're doing as you're doing, and you can get that result.
Exactly. And then when you become a black belt through training, you become unconsciously competent, to where now it's like you're a black belt. If someone gives you an objection on starting care, you know exactly what to say, when to say it, the right tone, and how to say it. Yeah. It just comes naturally. And the only way that you can go from a state of unconsciously incompetent to unconsciously competent is training. And that's lacking in our profession.
It is. I agree. So let's make sure I think it's important to recap on the podcast. I'm sure people are on the treadmill or in their car, even taking notes at home. So the process is this, and I think everyone has to be aware of it. You're going to start off unconsciously incompetent. Yep. You're going to move into consciously incompetent, to where you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Then you become consciously competent, to where you actually know the tools and the tactics and the strategies. You can execute those marketing strategies and get new patients in. But yet it takes work in your effort. You have to think your way through it. You have to be conscious of what you're saying and doing. And then through repetition and through training and through excellent coaching, you get to a point where you're unconsciously competent, where you are just a black belt, muscle memory, driving in sales and new patients into your practice with you without having to think about it. Am I on the same page?
Exactly. And then if you really want to scale your business, you take those same concepts and you teach staff, so you have a staff-driven practice and not a personality-driven practice. And that's what drives you out of the business, to where that's when you can start dreaming and have multiple clinics, or maybe you have just one big office, but you can have multiple clinics. You can serve more people because now you have the tools to train other people up, and you're actually talk about helping the economy.
Oh, big time.
To where you can actually employ so many more people and help so many more people because you've passed your knowledge on to other people to help them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know your time is precious. Thank you for penciling us in today. I know you only had a few minutes to sit down with us, but for those that are listening, I hope everyone enjoyed it at home. Dr. Rademacher, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're out, guys.